Hey, welcome back to the Shane Plays Out of the Abyss Notes series. Took a week off, so it's been a couple of weeks since we had an update. I needed a night off to do other stuff, so one of my other players ably filled in as a DM for a one-off session, and evidently they had a lot of fun. He took them through a very strange adventure involving circuses and wishes and allusions to the short story the Monkey's Paw. So I guess one of the characters wished another character away. I don't know. Anyway, I told him, whatever happens, happens, and it doesn't permanently affect the characters, so they had fun. And I appreciate Ron, if you happen to be watching this, thanks for running the one-off game, but you really shouldn't be watching these if you're part of my group because you might learn stuff that you don't need to learn and have stuff spoiled that will lessen the experience for you. So, um, they are still in the Whorlstone Tunnels of Gracklstugh. Um, they're working their way through them. They actually didn't make a lot of progress last night. We had one fight that took a while, longer than I expected, actually. I didn't know which way they were going to go. Um, the Whorlstone Tunnels has a lot of directions at different times, so you never quite know which way the characters are going to go. The best kind of clue that you'll have is if they're really trying to chase Droki down and they're making, investigation or whatever, search checks or survival checks or whatever, trying to look for his tracks. You've got kind of an idea of which way they'll go, but even then they have to be successful in finding his tracks, and they haven't always done that, but yet somehow they've managed to just through pure blind chance stay on his trail with their decisions. So they ended last session in the Raucous Mesa, which is this sort of area that the Fair's Rest has shaped. So there's sort of a stepped mesa kind of thing. If you go up to the top of it, you have a chance to hear things going on in Gracklstugh magically. Um, and so we ended there, and they had found a magical shield under some yellow mold, and there was also one of those little tunnels that you have to eat the mushrooms and shrink to go through. And so we picked right up there, and there was some discussion among the group. Do they want to do a long rest, do a short rest? One of my players, and I have a player who I like this player. I don't dislike any of my players, but it's that one player who will spout rules out and say, well, we can do this or we can't do this because of this. And I'm getting to where I'm kind of stepping in, and I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but I'm firmly saying, well, that's my decision to make. And I appreciate you pointing these things out, but ultimately that's my decision to make. So he, I don't think he's trying to be uh, difficult, but that's just how his mind works, But I do have to about once a session politely remind him that I'm the dungeon master, and I'll make the decisions on what the party can and can't do. So, but he studies the rules. He loves the rules. The rules are important to him. I don't dislike lawyers like some people do because, they've put time and effort into these rules that have been created, and so they want the game to work a certain way, like they've been told it's going to work by the books, and so that's what they want. But so I try to walk it kind of that line between, hey man, thanks for pointing that out, but that's really my decision, and sometimes I'll go with what you think, and sometimes it maybe not. Um, so anyway, there was some discussion over can they do a long rest or a short rest? Has it been 24 hours? And up to this point, they haven't taken a long rest. So since they've left the inn that's in the Dark Lake District, yeah, and they've gone into the West Cleft District where the Darrow live, and then gone in the Whorlstone Tunnels. They have not taken a long rest. So, and I've been tracking that for the pursuit level. So they still have yet to take a long rest. They decided to do a short rest in the Raucous Mesa, even though I said, well, if you want to, you can take a long rest. But just remember that it'll be 24 hours before you can take another long rest. So, anyway, reason I'm pointing that out is because I'm still keeping track of the pursuit level. That's the mechanic in the game for, has Ilvara and the Drow from the Velkenvelv caught up to them. So the pursuit level for the past couple of sessions has been at 4 because a full day hasn't gone past. But the next time they do a long rest, it's going to bump up to 5. And I think when it gets to 6 is when Ilvara catches up to them. So there's a very good chance when they finish the Whorlstone Tunnels and make it back to the inn or are making their way back to the inn, that there will be an encounter with the drow trying to recapture them. Now, um, I'll probably do it at the inn because that's where some of their other compatriots are at. So, uh, and I've got to make a decision if I want the alarm, because they set the magical spell of alarm on the rooms, if that'll play in or not. And I'm also thinking, uh, as a follow-up to some notes from several videos back, 4 of my players went on an extended vacation for 2 months. It's like a working vacation for their dad. And so I had them captured by the Gracklstugh guard at one point to kind of separate them out, and I made it clear I'll work you guys back in. And I'm wondering if things line up just right timing wise, the way I may work them back into it is they were captured, and the drow, of course, have cut a deal with the city of Gracklstugh, or the authorities or whatever. And so everybody gets back together, right? The drow hunting party shows up, and they've got their 4 friends already with them that they got from the city guard. And that might be how I naturally work them back into the game when they come back from vacation. We'll see if it naturally times out that way. So last night, basically, they did some exploration, and ended up in the there's a gray ghost, which is the thieving guild. They have a fungi pit where they cultivate fungus to make I think they make acid, and they make alchemist fire and some other things with it. And near there's a little side cavern that they didn't go into yet that has a Duergar alchemist. And there's also, if they explore right in that area and they haven't found it yet, there's a secret way to go to the docks in the Dark Lake District and back into the Whorlstone Tunnels. So they haven't found that yet. I'm sure they'll head that way next session because they're right there, and it's obvious that there's something up there to go check out. But they kind of, they were looking for Droki. Eldith, who I allow, she's with them, the NPC dwarf. Some of the other NPCs are back in the inn. Eldith actually, every now and then I'll have her roll with her survival or whatever to help the party. I don't let her take a lead role in the party, but if they need backup, I kind of let her supply it, because A, they don't have a lot of melee characters, and B, she's got a good survival skill of +5, and that's one of the reasons I think she was put in to the game in the first place as an NPC, because she has a high survival for foraging and that sort of thing, and she's also a connection to the dwarves that are living in the Underdark. It's not Gracklstugh, Gauntlgrim. They've reclaimed that, so she's a connection there story-wise. So anyway, they when they left the Raucous Mesa, they took the pygmy wort mushrooms and they shrunk and went through the little tunnels, popped out in another main tunnel, and just, I think Eldith helped them get on the trail of Droki to hang a right, and go up towards where these gray ghosts and the alchemist are. Now, one of my players suddenly announced, because they were like, "Hey, we're gonna eat mushrooms and we're gonna shrink so we can go through these tunnels," and my half-orc necromancer Melkor, who's the youngest player, I think he's like 13 or 14, maybe even 12. He plays Melkor. And he's always interesting. He's the one who'll want a burning hands, and he doesn't care if he catches the other party members in it, or he'll want to instigate stuff with, really weird, like, I don't like this guy, so I'm gonna instigate something weird. He's the one that wanted to give Prince Darendel a wedgie, because he's always wanted to give a prince a wedgie. So it can be extremely humorous, or it can be really kind of what the heck. Well, last night, he announces, "Well, I've suddenly decided that as one of my flaws or whatever, I won't take mushrooms." And so the whole party and me were like, "Okay, well, you can stay here," because they're shrinking and going through the tunnel. I guess you can wander around and see if you catch up with them. And so then he said, "Well, okay, I'll eat the mushroom, but it's under protest, and obviously my face shows I don't like it." Like, okay, so if you don't want to eat a mushroom, you don't get to eat a mushroom, but you don't get to go through the tunnel, the little narrow tunnel with the rest of the party. So, and then later, once again, the party had to talk him out of burning hands people, and using burning hands and catching other people in it. And we keep pointing out. I mean, I do like the alignment system in D&D. I've always liked it. Now, some people don't. If you want to jettison it for your own games, that's fine, but I like it. I do think that people live along a moral spectrum of how they will behave. And if they don't adhere to their beliefs, then it causes problems with them psychologically or otherwise. Um, and or spiritually, however you want to put it. So, we keep pointing out to him because he keeps, I want to kill this guy, I want to poison this guy, I want to do this to my party member, I want to do, and everyone is like, alignment, dude. So, um, it's kind of interesting because he wants to play sort of like chaotic neutral or bordering on chaotic evil, and it's just this party. I'm one of those dungeon masters, and not everybody's like this. I get that, but I am. I'm like, the spectrum of the party is along these alignments. So, and this is a good aligned party. I guess you can be neutral if you want, but for the most part, it's a good aligned party. So, anyway, and I understand other people may differ with that. I'm not saying you have to play that way. I'm saying that's how we're doing this game. And I'd be the same way if the party was like, hey, we're playing an evil party, which I don't personally enjoy that. But if I were running an evil party, I would say, you need to do the evil stuff because you're supposed to be evil. If you're acting lawful good, something's wrong. Because I think that alignment is part of the role playing and part of the game experience. It maybe pulls us out of our comfort zone or helps us to put our minds inside what would this character do. So anyway, that's kind of a tangent. Again, you don't like alignment, that's cool. You don't have to use it. I like it. So, and most of my party players, they seem to like it. So, and the one player who is kind of like, I want to burning hands everybody to get to this one enemy that I don't like. He doesn't really complain about alignment. He just, I don't think, gets it. He's caused fights with other party members, all this stuff because he's just very spontaneous. Like, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do. He's very impulsive and emotional in how he'll run his character. All right. So anyway, so they got into this gray ghost fungi farm kind of thing, and had a big fight. And basically they fight 3 Duergar, and then on the second round, a Duergar alchemist comes in from the other area that I mentioned they haven't explored yet and gets into the mix. So I'll just mention a couple of notable things about this. This fight actually took a while. It took most of the session. I wasn't expecting that. These Duergar are at CR1. I think they're a little overpowered. I think they're a little OP because they're, 20-something hit points. They get +4 to attacks. They do decent damage. They've got like an AC 16 armor class, I think. They can enlarge or shrink, and they can turn invisible. I think Duergar are a little OP at CR1 personally. But anyway, so they fought these 3 Duergar, and one of the unique things about this fungi farm room that the Duergar Grey Ghost Thieves Guild are doing is that it has this copper tank that has a spout coming off of it that can be turned 90 degrees at a time. And if you turn a valve, it'll shoot out fertilizer, which basically acts like a stinking cloud spell. And that locked down our 2 magic users for 2 turns. They were retching. Luckily, by the pure roll, the stinking cloud only lasted 2 turns, but that hurt it. It knocked the magic users out for a couple of rounds. And then 2 of the Duergar enlarged, and then you had the other alchemist coming in round 2, throwing alchemist fire and vats of acid and stuff like that. So it actually turned into a pretty challenging fight. That the monk went down at least once, and they had to keep trying to heal him. And the necromancer and the wizard, the other wizard, were retching. The blind rogue is tossing knives and missing, and but they finally won. But Eldith got hit with alchemist fire and was on fire, and they did the bad guys did manage to get the poison cloud off on them, and there's like a little narrow tunnel that you come into before you get into the bigger tunnel, the bigger area, and just the way it worked out, there were 2 or 3 characters right in that little bunched in area when the poison cloud hit, the stinking cloud from the fertilizer. So I would definitely, for that battle, if you run that battle, definitely take advantage of that copper tank that has the fertilizer in it. It adds an interesting dynamic to the fight. Now, this was cool. The monk decided, because he realized right off something's up with this tank, and I think before it even spouted its first uh, stinking cloud, he realized, man, this guy's like pointing this thing towards us, so he knew something was up. So he ran in there and said, I want to punch it open and see if I can make whatever's going to happen go a different direction. And so I was like, huh. So I had to look up what, the object. I got busted out my Dungeon Master's Guide and determined that, I guess, copper. I just said, well, it's kind of thick, I guess. And the closest thing I could find was the iron, steel under the object materials, and that had a armor class of 19, I think, and hit points of like 18. So he managed to actually do some. He did 17 points of damage to it. And I said, man, you put a really big dent in it, and you could tell you almost did it, but it's not quite there. If he'd have done one more hit point, he would have accomplished his goal. But I still thought that was pretty neat. I should have given him inspiration in retrospect, but I didn't. That was actually a pretty good idea that he did. But anyway, long story short, you had enlarged Duergar. You had Duergar turning invisible. You had the monk taking a beating because he's the main melee fighter, and he was just charging. When he charged in there to attack the copper tank, that put him in range of the two enlarged Duergar, or Duergar, however you want to say it. So it was an interesting fight, but they prevailed. It was just slightly. It took longer, and it was a tougher fight than I was expecting. But that's not all they did the whole session. They did a little bit more exploration, but the Whorlstone Tunnels are turning out about like I thought, where it takes a little while to get through. It's going to be multiple sessions in the Whorlstone Tunnels because we basically get 2 hours a pop each session. So we'll be in there probably at least 2 or 3 more evenings. So see if I can have anything else noteworthy. I think that's it. It was an interesting fight. There's still, I'm almost 99.9. You never know with players, but I'm 99.9% positive because we just ended right there. No short rest, no long rest, whatever. It's like the fight was over. It's like, okay, we'll take up here next time. People are taking hits. They're running out of spells. I assume they're going to try to take a long rest pretty soon. I guess the other couple of things I'll mention is I assume that the players they're going to go up and check out the other area that's right next to it where the Duergar alchemist was, and most likely find the secret way between the Dark Lake District and the Whorlstone Tunnels. The player that's the rules lawyer kind of guy, he's also, and I don't know if I'm even going to address it, but we already have a rogue, and he decided when he made because he's the guy who charged the dragon at 2nd level and died, so he made a new character who's a wizard. But this wizard also has stealth and thief skill, like lockpicking and trap detection and all that. So at the point where the rogue needs to do their thing, he's jumping in. Well, my character is going to do because there was a couple of, before you get into this area with the fungi farm and the alchemist, there's a set of double doors that are just kind of set into the tunnel. It's very weird. There's like a bend in the tunnel, and if you keep going straight, there's double doors that are just kind of in the tunnel. So, hey, here's a chance, because my rogue player hangs back a lot. They don't get a lot of chances to shine. So here's their chance to shine. And here's the other player barging in, and I'm going to do the check for traps and lock picking and all that. So I encouraged them to work together so they would get advantage at least. And then trying to think, and that's kind of annoying me. It's like, and this character is also like when somebody's stealthing ahead, they're like, well, I'm stealthing ahead too. And then so the reason that when they fought the Duergar, there was no surprise is because the main guy, the monk's trying to stealth ahead and check out what's going on, rolled very well, like a 21 or something. Well, the wizard player, who's also wanting to be kind of roguelike, rolled a 10. And he said, we're both going ahead. I said, are you two together? And they said, yep. I said, well, you have an effective stealth rating of 10 then because you're together. And that allowed the passive perception of the Duergar to see them when they came blundering into the fungi farm. So they didn't even get the chance of surprise. So you got that one player who, it's like, I want to be in the middle of everything. I'm trying to think of a really polite coaching way to direct that energy to let other people shine as well. So, and to not blunder things up, because they blunder things up pretty often. So, but I don't want to scold somebody. It's a game. It's not, you're not there to scold people. I'd rather coach and make sure people have fun. So I'm trying to think of how to address that. But the other thing is, and then I'll wrap here, is one of my characters, players that plays the bard, this guy named Tom. He's very creative. Actually, a lot of my players are very creative. The guy who plays the rogue has come up with this incredibly cool backstory on the circus he used to be in and characters that are part of the circus. And Tom, who plays the bard, Kellandus, he said, "Hey, do you know what? I think it's Senryu or something like that." And I was like, "No, I don't know what that is." Uh, yeah, but it's Senryu. I was like, "No, I don't know what that is." So Senryu evidently are haiku that are about a different topic. So haiku, the 575 type Japanese poetry, is usually about nature. And Senryu is about other topics. It can be darkly humorous and that kind of thing, the foibles of people. So he said, I did some Senryu about our adventures. So I want to read a couple of these and then we'll end here. So he wrote this one about the Raucous Mesa, the switch where, if you go up on top of the mesa, you can hear things from within the city magically, but if you fail your check, you can get psychically damaged and take on a level of madness. But he called it Switchboard Central. He said, stone shaped by magic, noise from all over city, then madness descends. I thought that was pretty good. And then when they got last couple of sessions ago, they got into a fight in a fungus jungle thicket with a bunch of insect swarms, and he called it the swarm. He said, creepy crawly things attack us in many swarms. Need a can of raid. And then he wrote one about finding the shield under the yellow mold, and it's called You Can't Touch This, and it's the mound of yellow mold. Cover something under it. Burn it with fire. And then finally, mushrooms. Jefferson Airplane walks through the mushroom forest singing White Rabbit. So I love the fact that the game is engaging my players enough that they're doing that sort of thing, and it's very clever. So Senryu, or haiku if you will, celebrating Out of the Abyss. I thought that was great. So anyway, we will continue our adventures in the Whorlstone Tunnels under Gracklstugh in the Underdark playing Out of the Abyss, the D&D 5th edition Underdark adventure. Thanks so much for listening and watching. Please leave a comment or a thumbs up on YouTube. That helps me a lot. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we will catch you next time on Shame Plays. Thanks.